My name's Deshaun Emira. I'm from here. I'm from Oakland. CEO and founder of Maven. We basically empower hairstylists to retail products to their clients without requiring them to buy or hold any inventory. I came through 500 startups. I was in the incubator a couple years ago, and Dave was one of the first guys to put some money in my crazy black company.
Wow. Is that it? I don't know. I don't think you're crazy. You are black.
Yeah.
Partially
at least.
Last time I checked, anyway. Okay.
Hi, good evening. I'm Chantel Polson. I'm a partner at Reach Capital. We are a spinoff fund from New Schools Venture Fund. We invest in early stage K-12 education technology companies focused on issues of access and opportunity. We've been one of the most active ed tech investors right along with 500, so very happy to be here and discuss both what it means to be an African American VC as well as what it means to get more African Americans into this field.
Hi, I'm Hamay Watt. I am a venture partner at a venture firm in my old state, in Los Angeles. Upfront is investing out of our fifth fund. That's about $280 million. I'm also a co-founder in a company called MoviePass, so I'm sort of active on both sides of the fence.
I'm Charles Hudson. I'm a partner at Softtech VC.
Hi, Marlon Nichols, investment director at Intel Capital, principal investor in the new diversity fund there, and I'm also a founding partner at a new venture firm called Cross Culture Ventures.
And I should note for the record, there are actually other black investors who are in the audience. In fact, we actually had challenges trying to limit this panel to just 5 people. There are a lot of great voices.
That's about 100% of all the VCs
I know.
in the country, by the way.
There used to be a time when the only black VC was Charles Hudson, and everybody thought that it was just, like, if anybody was black in VC, it was like, oh, that's Charles. And in fact, even one time we had another black founder for Charles Hudson. That actually happened.
Yeah, we call him the captain.
Yeah, Lo Tony from Comcast, and Paul Judge is also
Actually,
been an
we have a
angel
lot
investor
of folks in the
crowd.
audience too, so props to everybody there. The reason I wanted to show that ethnic population dispersion was, I guess from looking at this, I spent a lot of time growing up in Maryland, in Baltimore and DC, and definitely there's a lot of folks. My wife went to school in New Orleans. You just run into a lot more people on the East Coast and in the South and I think out here. And it's a very different experience. The first 25 years I grew up on the East Coast and I had friends and people I ran into all the time. And then when I came out to California, that really changed. And I'm guessing that's not the same story for all of you folks, but you know, we are very underrepresented in the VC community, very underrepresented in the founder community. And I wonder if you guys think that's a different story in other parts of the country or not? Yes? I know Paul Judge and some other folks from Atlanta are here. I guess I would normally think if you looked at that graph, you'd say, okay, there's got to be VCs who invest who are black and invest in black demographics and founders in New Orleans, in Atlanta, in Baltimore, in DC at the very least. But there's not so many.
there are not as many funds in those geographies either, so I think that
Right.
that's part of it. I do think that there are a lot of founders in Atlanta, and they're doing some interesting things.
Yeah, we funded a few folks there, but again, I feel like we're missing some stuff that's going on in that.
I don't know. I think most of the capital is just, if you look at where the venture capital is, it's California, New York, a few places. And I think if you're not around venture capital, as a founder, it's very hard to get a sense of the difference between a really good, solid, small business and a venture fundable business. And so if you're not getting access to what venture fundable businesses look like, I think it's really hard to know where you sit in that landscape and how to reach out to capital.
Right.
Yeah, I think access is key. In a lot of those places, they're just not tied into the tech community or the venture community. And you know, as we all know, the best way to get in front of a VC is through someone who knows that VC. And if you don't have a network of folks that can get you there, you're not on the radar.
Do you think that's getting any better? No.
I think yes. So
yes?
Yeah. So, you know, with this big announcement for that Intel made the
Right.
other day,
Sorry,
right?
we should mention that Lisa Lambert and Intel launched a $125 million diversity fund 2 days ago, I guess.
2 days ago.
And that's addressing women and people of
And,
color. And
yeah, underrepresented minorities, so African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Native Americans.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, doing things like that, just letting folks know that there's a channel for you to reach out to that's different than the traditional means that you would use to reach out to VCs. I think is helpful. Like my inbox has been crazy over the last 2 days.
Did you guys all get a lot of email in the last 48 hours?
Insane. We hired an intern to help. It's that bad, or good actually.
So is that going to solve our problem? We have a $100 million fund there that like, okay, this is for black people over here. We're all done. That's it. It's solved.
I think it's a very good start, but it really is a drop in the bucket. And I think the more people think this is an obligation, almost a social obligation, I think that's probably not a good thing. I don't think Intel's goal
I don't
is
think we
that.
should be doing this to be charitable. We should be doing it to be greedy venture capitalists.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
I mean, there's so much research that speaks to the importance of diversity and inclusion in the innovation process.
Right.
The notion that people aren't prioritizing it is a little bit, it's a little bit surprising to me, but also an opportunity.
It just makes.
Go ahead. From my perspective as an entrepreneur, I think the thing that has the most impact on turning the tide is when there's a success, right? When there is a African American founder or a Latino founder or a woman founder that achieves some really big success, right? And that sends a signal to the rest of the investment community to say, oh, well, I can invest in somebody that looks like this and actually I can get a favorable return. And actually more importantly, it sends more of a signal to the rest of the entrepreneurs out there, gives them somebody to aspire to be like and say, oh, wait, I can go do that as well as these other things that I'm used to seeing.
I think the visible role model is probably more important in a lot of ways, but
Yeah,
you know.
to me, I mean, for sure. I mean,
So
it's
is that
more of
you,
a
Deshaun?
push.
You're going to do it? You're the man?
I will be the man.
Right.
I'll do that.
I
Yeah,
hope
I'll
so.
do that for you, Dave.
'Cause then I can make some money off that.
So I would say beyond the visible role model, it also starts, we talked a lot about just even within education, people having a solid foundation. So even entrepreneurs having strong technical backgrounds, where does that start? That starts with strong STEM backgrounds in their education. We already have a lot of inequities in the system there. And then like you were saying, these visible role models. Even with the role models, it's also the networks and also
Yeah.
having the right connections to the entrepreneurs and the VCs who will fund you.
Right. So
I
Deshaun,
think,
I just wanted to emphasize, like, so who is that person in your mind right now? Like, for any of you guys as founders, you know, is there a role model in tech who's black that you guys feel is the person leading the way right now? Is there anyone?
I mean, I feel like 2.5 years ago, when I had just kind of come and I was trying to figure out what to do and how to like break into this crazy little VC world and learn this culture, at that time there was hardly any African Americans doing anything that I couldn't find.
I feel like the role
Over
models are
the
coming
past-
from other sectors of business and entertainment, not tech, but I'm missing it.
I mean, over the past, like couple years, it's become more and more visible that there's more people around the table that are stepping up and achieving some sorts of success, whether that's in the investment side or on the entrepreneurial side. So I mean, I can see things getting a little bit more colorful.
Dave, I think without question, to me, the most visible person is Tristan Walker. I
Yeah.
think there should be, to me, there's no doubt that he's the most visible sort of person, both based in terms of background and achievement and the way he's told his own story. I don't think that, to me, I struggle to think of someone else within the Silicon Valley tech community who on the founder side is more visible or more well-known.
Yeah, maybe not on the founder side. I don't know if David Drummond or other people like that.
I think
have
there's execs. I think
visibility.
there's a whole other tier of executives who
Yeah.
I would put David Drummond, John Thompson, folks like that who've
Right.
achieved amazing things in their career.
And I think
Well,
maybe more from pop culture, Oprah and Jay-Z and some other folks, particularly in media and entertainment and sports, that I think are those role models. But I don't know that they cross over into tech, at least
well,
it's starting to happen.
No, not
there
at all.
are some very successful black founding technologists, right? So I think
Yeah.
of like Mark
Tony.
Jones at Ares Communications, right? Very hot IoT company. Shelly Archambault.
Michael Siebel.
Michael Siebel,
Siebel.
right? Just not as high profile as, say, a Tristan
Sorry,
Walker.
Michael Siebel is partner at Y Combinator. It was recently tapped, I guess, 6 months ago or a year ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He did,
Before that,
Social
Justin
Cam.
TV, Social Cam.
Social Cam.
So, yeah.
But there need to be more. I think, to the point that you were making, I think it starts with younger folks deciding that they want to go down a technology path when they're in school, or deciding that they want to take some risk and start a company. This might be a little bit controversial, but I've had some debate with some friends, other African American folks, and we talk about when we graduate from a good school and we have many options, do we choose an entrepreneurial path, or do we choose to be a doctor or a lawyer? And then how do our communities respond to risk? Like, what happens if we start a company and then it doesn't work? Is the penalty for that the same as the penalty in other cultures? And I think we're starting to evolve, but I think we're generally have been more conservative and less likely to start a company if we've had some achievement educationally. So I think part of that is changing, and more visibility for more entrepreneurs that are taking the risk, hopefully having some success will hopefully change that.
And part of that is access to resources, right? So even if you have that education, you have a solid foundation, do you have the resources to go out there and start a company? And do you have, other people can do a friends and family round where, maybe we don't have the resources to even do a friends and family round to even start that initial seed company. So that is a big deal.
Deshaun, could you talk a little bit about your experience? I mean, I think you've, had phenomenal success with the company, and I don't know if you can tell us all the kind of KPIs that you guys have right now, but I know you're doing pretty damn well.
So, without giving the exact numbers, so we're basically, we have a direct sales model. So we go out and, what we discovered is that 95% of black hair salons do not retail any products. But African Americans buy $9 billion of hair products. Everything's bought at these corner store, beauty supply stores, brick and mortar. And almost none of these beauty supply stores are owned by any African Americans. So it's sort of like a big gripe in the community that, like, we buy $9 billion of stuff and we don't make any money off of it at all. We're like nowhere in the supply chain. So and I saw that in my community, and that's what I wanted to change. So we go out, we partner with the stylists, we give them all their own personal e-commerce web pages. They're not required to buy any inventory. They just funnel traffic to their websites. We do all the fulfillment, the shipping, the customer service, and then we pay our stylists commissions on everything they sell. So, a stylist is able to join Maven, and she can double, triple, quadruple her revenue or her income by being able to retail the products that her clients use in addition to doing the service.
How many salons?
Yeah, so we launched, about a year and a half ago. We raised, through 500 startups, we raised about $750,000. We launched. We are now up to 30,000 plus hairstylists, and the company's doing solid 8-figure revenue.
Yeah, he won't quite brag about that as much as I'd like him to.
Yeah,
but,
not later.
over $10 million a year in revenue, which
Yeah.
So that's great, but you're not going to like the rest of that story, which is who paid attention to that over the last 2 years? Not too many fucking people, right?
Yeah, no, not a lot of fucking people.
Yes.
I
guarantee you there are a lot of other companies in our portfolio that were not doing anywhere near that much revenue who got a lot more attention.
Yeah, to be fair, my strategy is not. It never really was a press strategy and go and be high profile. The way I went out and wanted to do it was I wanted to just achieve revenue and achieve things before I got out in the press. That being said, a lot of people did know, and a lot of people just didn't care because it just didn't connect to them or the markets that they really cared about.
Not a lot of white male VCs are going to relate to the black female beauty market for hair weave products and have any reference point for that. Not that I do either, but
Yeah, Dave, what made you take that first jump?
I think we were looking for it. Actually, we invested in Tristan first, and then I think, I'm not quite sure. Did we? Tristan was first, I think.
I don't know. You're
Bevel-
asking me.
Bevel
I
would've
don't,
been
did
fir-
you?
Bevel was first. Bevel would have been first time.
Yeah. I mean, we invested in other black founders who weren't going after the black demographic market, but I think I understood what Tristan was going after and what Deshaun was going after. It was a pretty easy decision, actually. We had already been an investor in Style Seat, which was sort of going after a similar market, not specifically black. And yeah, I mean, I knew the numbers, and
But you have somewhat of some.
I had a
you have
girlfriend.
diverse
I had a
team.
girlfriend in high school who was black. I actually talked to black people when I was growing up.
So you got some perspective.
I have some perspective,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, but you also have a diverse team around you, right?
We do, but until just a few weeks ago, we didn't have any black people in that team. Charles turned me down like 5 years ago, so we could have solved that very early on. It's all your fucking fault.
I mean, but as a
Demi, are
as-
you in the audience? He's over here, right? Okay, so Demi's with us for a month. It's not like we're doing that fucking good when we have 60 people on the team and one black person for a month. So we gotta do better too. This is one area we fall down on that.
I mean, but as a fund, like, you know, what was different about 500 Startups is that, like, it seemed like you guys, your thesis was, let's find things that are unsexy. Let's find things that are really
We were
different.
more likely to want to do it because
Right.
it was different,
Right.
not want to do it because it was different.
Right.
So both on international and on different demographic fronts, we were like, okay, let's do it because we haven't done it before, very intentionally. But I mean, I was also greedy. I mean, I knew the stats and the market's big, and we were like, why the fuck aren't we doing more in this area? And I was astonished that there weren't VCs in the southeastern U.S. who were doing that business. I would have thought, or at least in New York and L.A. But there weren't that many. I mean, now upfront maybe, I guess. Yeah. So it feels like, I want to emphasize, for greedy purposes, I think the message is there's money to be made, and like Deshaun's running a company doing, over $10 million worth of business, and like, why the fuck aren't we paying attention to that, even if you're white? Like,
It just makes good business sense, right?
Right.
So focusing on the part of the market that's spending the most money, right, and is significantly directing where consumer spending is going, I think is a good business decision, right?
What are the
do
metrics
you guys,
on those
Do you guys
again?
feel like
So-
having a
So, for instance, I think this was a Nielsen study. 70% of white America believes that Black America actually drives pop culture.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the other part of this is, a lot of non-black purchases are influenced by the black community as well. So it's probably larger than 17%, 13% of the economy that's really going on there. Certainly music and entertainment, that's true.
Yeah, and health and beauty, and Deshaun, you can correct me on the stats, but I know that it's 30+% of the spend on at least hair care is African American,
Yeah.
maybe more than that. So
Well, we over-index, like by triple on what we spend on hair products. So, and that's, you're not going to know that unless you're actively trying to know that.
you can look at my
Right,
wife's
like as-
closet and see half the.
Well, yeah, we know that. Like, we know that. But as a culture, the VC world, Silicon Valley, you go out and tell people, we spend this and we buy these things, and like, huh? What's that? What's a hair extension? What is that? So you got to start from scratch. I mean, you're starting from zero to get a VC to even understand the world that you're even going into to try to address a problem.
What's it like being a minority partner in a white majority firm? I guess for at least Hamé and Charles. I don't know about Chantel and Marlon.
I'm happy to. I mean, I'll talk about something that.
Jeff's gone, so Jeff left to go to something else. You can talk whatever.
Look, my partner is, he's an American citizen, but he was born in France. And he was not what I would describe as a Valley insider when he started SoftTech. I'll talk about something personal that I don't normally talk about, but because I like Dave, I'm going to bring this up. I think as an African-American partner, I feel two things that I don't know that my white colleagues feel. One, I feel an enormous amount of pressure if I back an African-American entrepreneur
It better
pursuing
work.
an African-American business, because if for whatever reason that investment doesn't work out, The buck stops with me.
So that's tough because
And that
you're
might be-
basically
and there
making
might
it a
not be
higher bar on him.
A higher bar, definitely putting a higher bar on someone like Deshaun.
I've heard this before from women VCs also.
And you realize that for whatever reason, that investment failure is likely to be scrutinized to a greater degree than that SaaS company that just didn't work out. And I think about that. I wish I didn't have to think about that. I wish I could just say, Deshaun's a really talented entrepreneur. We're going to fund him. If it doesn't work out,
Right.
we're not going to worry about it.
It's easier for me to screw up that decision than for you.
Yes, I also feel a certain pressure to try to help African entrepreneurs who I meet, who I think are talented, not work on terrible ideas. And it's not that they're terrible ideas in general, it's that they're just inappropriate for venture. And to me, that's not unique to African Americans. I find anyone who's from outside of Silicon Valley or New York, who's never seen or touched a venture-backed tech company will come in and pitch me on stuff. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. You shouldn't raise money for that. You should go work on that like under some other context than institutional VC. But I think a lot about how do I make myself accessible to African American entrepreneurs, and how do I maintain a fair bar for that audience when they come in to pitch?
Right, because I think that's the flip side of it is you don't necessarily want it to be the affirmative action VC.
Yeah.
And I think there's some perception of that sometimes. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but like,
I've felt it as an entrepreneur. I mean, the first $20,000 that I raised were from 2 black women that I knew from college. They got like regular jobs. They got regular jobs.
That's
They each
awesome.
wrote me $10,000 checks because they were like, Deshaun, you got to do this business. From that point forward, I didn't get another like black investor till I was doing millions of dollars.
really?
And I think it had a lot to do with like what he just talked about. I mean, I could feel it, right? You could feel it when you're talking to another black investor or VC that he's
You're
got
like,
this
I
pressure.
better not fuck this up.
Yeah, he's got this pressure
I'm
to
screwing up
not.
Charles's career, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's got this pressure to not look like he's just funding something because it's like another black person, or
Dude, you gotta hook him
or
up.
if
Come
if
on.
the thing fails, it's like a higher degree of failure for him.
So we've had that. Yeah, I mean, I specifically, a black founder that had something go south. No pun intended. Sorry, man. I had to like be inappropriate at least once on this panel. I've been good so far. Jesus.
Yeah, this guy.
So
But
all black people are in the South.
Yeah, I know. Right.
I'm just messing with you.
Whatever. Anyway, I remember like Christine and I talking about this one scenario where like it wasn't working. We knew it wasn't working. We're like, fuck, this isn't like. The first couple of times that we invested in black founders, actually, we didn't see wins. Now there's like 3 or 4 in the portfolio that I think are doing well. But it was, we felt the pressure. Like we want the role models to succeed. We want those wins early.
Yeah, I think you also have the pressure to source great entrepreneurs. And so like you were saying, you might not have the networks. And so being a black VC, I think a lot of people look to us to find the black entrepreneurs as well as to find the talent for our companies. So a lot of our companies, if they're looking for tech talent, diverse tech talent, they're looking to you to source that from your networks. I just want to say also, just being in, so at our firm, actually, we have a very diverse set of team. So we have myself, a Caucasian woman, an Asian woman, and a Latino male. So pretty happy with the diversity on the team. But just being in the VC world, being African American female, I would say that, if I had to sum it up in one word, it's probably lonely.
You are the unicorn.
Yeah, so being in this world is very lonely looking out. You are, like you said, a unicorn amongst, a lot of people that don't look like you. And I think what's difficult about that is that VC is a relationship business. And so if you're not brought to the table, if you're not part of those conversations, you're almost starting from behind day one. And so I think what's helping is just having this network. Even a lot of us are together. Charles and all of us. He has stealth mode, and so he's bringing together the black VCs as well as I know Stephen DeBerry and Shervin are also trying to get those people together. And so I think it's changing because we are building that community. But if I was someone looking from the outside in, wanting to come into this work, why would I want to come in when it's it's already a lonely business and I'm already going to be one of few?
Are you guys feeling like there's big opportunities in the, I guess, there's a market for black founders doing any kind of business, but, at the current time, I'm really only aware of like Tristan and Deshaun doing businesses that are addressing the African American market. Like, I'm sure there's more than two. WTF? Are we missing stuff? Like,
Are you
what
saying
else is out
black
there?
founders in general, or you're saying specifically black founders going
Or
after problems in
non-black
the black?
founders going after the black demographic consumer
Yeah.
product goods market, entertainment market. I don't know. Like,
I mean, there's just by the numbers of people that the
Right.
populations, there are opportunities. Like,
Seems like
we
there
have to, we
could
just have to
be
spend more time trying to
hundreds.
look for them
right?
and identify them. Like, spend some time doing that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of just investors are not going to spend time actually doing the research to find these things. They're
Well,
out there, right? Like,
White guys probably not, but you guys, do you feel like
Well,
there's
if-
missed opportunities?
Well, if you're a thesis investor, for instance, right? This
Yeah.
is a great one, right? Go and
Consumer e-commerce for that market.
Well, go and study the culture. You know, put yourself in Harlem for a month, right, and see how people go about doing their shopping or just live their lives and do things, and you'll find places where improvement is needed, right? Then once you start to understand those challenges, it makes it easier for you to go out and talk to someone like Deshaun that is actually doing something about one of the challenges that you've seen. But without that kind of perspective, without really understanding what those challenges are, it's not going to work out. So get in there and research it.
And I think for me, the counterexample is I certainly know a lot of investors who've tried to put themselves in the mind of a Chinese consumer, in the mind of an Indian consumer. They're not from either of those countries. And so to me, the idea that if you think you can make the logical leap of being kind of a person based here who can put yourself in the mind of someone in another country in a distinct culture, I don't see why putting yourself in the mind of an African-American consumer is such a gigantic leap.
I think that it's probably easier for Silicon Valley to invest in India or China businesses than it is to invest in African American businesses or Hispanic,
Yeah.
businesses.
And well, just to address your first question just head on, I think the answer is hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about markets in healthcare. I mean, in our communities, we have 30% diabetes, right? So all of the
Right.
health tech
Lupus.
opportunities, exactly, to name a few. I mean, so all of the health tech opportunities, people addressing prediabetes and other behavior change related
Right.
technologies are very relevant to our markets, right? Very relevant. We over-index on Twitter, we over-index on mobile consumption. So, I mean, I think whether it is an African-American entrepreneur or any entrepreneur,
Yeah.
the markets are huge.
What do you guys think about media personalities, sports, entertainment media jumping in? I think we're seeing folks. We've even seen it already. Serena Williams,
I mean, Oprah's
Carmelo
Serena's
Anthony,
investing, yeah.
Shaq, other people jumping in. Chamillionaire is, a
Chamillionaire.
pretty nerdy black guy, I think, actually. Like, gee whiz, you had a job as a rapper and you decided to jump into tech? What the fuck are you thinking, man?
I think it was great. We have Chamillionaire and Encilo as EIRs at Upfront, and I think they represent a huge group of influencers that have played in the music game or in other parts of entertainment that see the same kind of transformational opportunity in tech, the same opportunity to take some risks and do things a little differently. I think it's huge, and we love being
How
in
come
LA for
Oprah
that.
hasn't backed a VC fund that invests in black market?
Maybe she should. Huh?
She's
She's
rich,
definitely
man. Come on,
invested
don't
in
need
companies.
that much
She's invested
money.
in a lot
maybe
of
she
companies.
has.
Maybe she has.
Maybe she has. I mean,
No, going back to something that Deshaun said earlier, though, right? The role models, the examples. So, you come from a neighborhood where, a lot of these urban kids are coming from as well, and it's great to see someone that comes from that same hood that's doing something other than rapping or dribbling a basketball
Well,
or whatever.
Not
And
that those are
and it
bad
gives them
things,
something to
but I
reach
think
for.
those people making investments and doing investment decisions or doing business, I think it's actually easier if, Carmela or Oprah or somebody else decided to start being the angel investor for those markets. I think that's what we're missing, right? There's no, who's the Ron Conway, Esther Dyson for the black community?
Yeah. Well, I think they are. The Oprahs and the Carmelos of the world and the Kobe's
Yeah.
of the world are definitely now
They
starting
are.
to invest.
Seems like.
And I think it's great because it impacts the entire ecosystem. Now the doctor who's got a lot of money that used to be conservative, now he feels like it's okay to invest in an emerging technology company run by an African-American founder or any founder. And that hasn't existed in our ecosystem, going back to the point I was making around risk. the friends and family round was kind of tricky for a lot of us. There are not a lot of wealthier uncles that are even ready to do that kind of thing. But the more Oprahs, the more, active influences in that makes a difference.
Any of you guys interested in the African market? Hame, you have some connections
Well, I'm
there.
an actual African American
African.
because my father's African and my mother's American. So I am not actively investing in any companies in Africa. My brother lives in West Africa in Senegal, where my dad is from, and I think that's the next big thing too. So at some point, hopefully, I will.
We put a little bit of money into Incubator Savannah Fund in Nairobi, and certainly there's markets in East Africa, West Africa, South Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana are like growing markets. We have done one investment in Ghana, hopefully some more.
From the entrepreneur side, I'm very interested in the African markets.
Yeah, that's
we're building a
huge.
like an ethnic beauty brand that will translate.
There's a billion people.
There's a billion, Africans, and like 100, 200 million people moving into the middle class.
Right.
It's going to be a huge market.
Any nervous questions from the audience before we wrap this panel up? Because I know you guys are scared as shit to talk to black people. There's one over there.
Well, I don't have a question. My name is Vince, but I can share one interesting data from Department of Education. The state of education in last year, the number of African American and Hispanic people crossed over 54% to the school level as compared to white. So next time you can use that fact, kind of very interesting. And other fact is that a founder of Kiva just started a company branch, which is actually focused on African country.
Hey, Dave, why do you think there is so much tension around this conversation?
Because people are afraid to fuck it up, and
Okay.
they don't want to look bad or look stupid or whatever.
Got it.
I mean, I think I'm foolish enough to just say stupid shit. And so
I'm glad you're encouraging the conversation because I think it's.
I'm sorry. Yes, Wendy.
What do you think this community can do to support the black community?
Invite us in. So like I said, a lot of this is networking and relationships. And so come talk to us, invite us when you go out and have a drink. And like Dave was saying, next time bring someone that doesn't look like you to this conference.
My thing would be like I wouldn't ask for support from the community. You guys are investors. I'm assuming you want to make money.
Right.
Right. So what I'm saying is, if you want to get some of this money, you should do the work and you should do the work and the research to find things that there's not going to be 10 million other investors competing with you to go get. Do the work to go find a market. Like one of my first investors, David Shin at Launch Capital, this Asian dude, he came over with his little intern. He was like, bring me to West Oakland to the beauty supply store. Drove him to West Oakland. I pulled up. He's out there in the middle of the hood, and
seriously nervous motherfucker.
But I had so much respect for him because it was so smart. It's like, let me do what all these other people are not gonna do, and come out here to West Oakland to where there's commerce happening, high velocity, volume, money moving that is not getting captured, right? So my message is I don't need you to support me. I'm saying if you want to get a piece of this with me, then come do the work with me, right? Do the research. Go look into these markets. Go step outside the box where you're comfortable, and let's go find these new opportunities and problems to solve.
I mean, I think yes. I think for me, this sounds fucking weird, but I wasn't like a poor kid. I wasn't a rich kid. I grew up in West Virginia, and I had access to some opportunities, but I definitely felt like I was on the outside a lot of times and hung out with other people who seemed like underdogs. So I think a lot of the reason we invest in minorities, gay people, international people, female people, whatever, is because we want to support underdogs. That's probably not a great investment thesis, but we've sort of developed a brand around doing the opposite of what people expect, and that works for us. But it's generally like I've talked to Cham a couple times. I'm trying to get him to like jump in and be a VC so I can get access to deals. And we'll see. I'm going to keep working on him, I think. But I think people like him feel pressure from the rest of the community as well. And I'm not sure he's ready to talk about all those experiences. I want to keep asking him to like come up and share some of that. Yeah, we'll get you. We'll get you up here a little bit. But I think it's just like being open to other experiences. You know, my wife was a Japanese native who came to study jazz in New Orleans, ended up playing with the Neville Brothers, and that was like freaky weird, you know, great experience for her, and I think great experience for other people, but not like that's the average, certainly not the average Japanese experience to even think about coming to the, you know, to a very, very black city and, you know, participating in music. So I think people just need to step out more, and you know, hopefully you guys lead the way in making some of those decisions. One last comment, question.
Dave, over here.
Oh, sorry, we got two fighting for it.
Hi, Sarah Milstein with Indie VC. I just wanted to make a quick comment. We have our first cohort right now with Indie VC. We've got 9 companies. 500 companies applied to be part of our program. And of the 9 that we picked, 5 of them are run by women and 2 of them by black women. And that was just from the pool of people who came to us. It was like the natural filtering out. And so one of the things I think is pretty interesting about that is Indie VC has a message about who we're looking for. It's different than the traditional entrepreneur. We're looking for people who normally couldn't or wouldn't take venture capital. And so part of what we're doing is signaling, like we're interested in a different population overall, and it just naturally drew a different group to us demographically. So I think when people are asking what can we do, it's not necessarily like the people on the stage, but for traditional firms thinking about what you're signaling and who you're saying can participate, that takes some thought. It's not a thing you just, you know, put a Benetton ad on your website, right? But figuring out really how to say we want to talk to other folks and we have a way to do that, I think is quite important and worth pursuing.
I mean, I think there's got to be some folks who take the first step, and so, you know, even though they are white and male, I think people like Ben Horowitz and Mark Suster, who opened up a spot for someone on the team to make decisions, investment decisions. I mean, I really think that's the key, is to put people in roles where they can make decisions. Investment decisions, hiring decisions, all of those really matter, and have those people look like you and really be able to move the needle, not just as associates or other people who influence, like makes a huge difference. I know we gotta move on. This is a really awesome conversation. Thank you guys all for participating and being here.
Thank you.